Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. Today our topic is, are you ready to listen to the voice of love and faith? And there's a byline to that, or are you still listening to the voice of the ego, fear, and doubt in your life? In my life, in our life. And we've had a very interesting service so far. And it's interesting to me that we're celebrating Labor Day weekend, right? Now, Labor Day, or the word labor implies what? Work. Anybody agree? Maybe a little bit of struggle, worry, concern.
Or babies.
Or what?
Babies. Babies.
Labor Day. See, I didn't do that. See, it takes a cultural...
in the room.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Whether they have babies or didn't.
Cultural and gender identification and everything. It's very important to be homogenous. But would you agree, the word labor has that implication that we have to do something to get something, or we have to go through a period of trial. It's really fascinating. And I've been thinking about that all week. I really have been. It's been on my mind, as a matter of fact, for a couple of weeks. And so I asked Madeline to put up on the video a chant that we did earlier in our service. Those of you that are out there somewhere, we open with prayer, and then we go through a process of announcements, and then we always do a meditation. And once a month, we rotate into Larry, and Larry does a chant. This happens to be, I believe, a Buddhist background chant, which talks about loving kindness. And it says, loving kindness to all beings. That means that we love everything just the way it is, okay? So I don't worry. And if I go to Matthew 5, Jesus said, don't worry. Luke, Jesus said, don't worry. And there are all kinds of words in the Bible that say, worry not. I invoke the 11th commandment as sweatest thou not. So the idea is we are trained to doubt, to worry, to plan, to get upset, to fear, to all this stuff. And here's a very clear statement. Loving kindness to all beings, from the one beyond the stars. Now that's a metaphor, because a lot of the religious conversations are beautiful metaphors that talk about something in a ethereal or in a mystical type environment. But beyond the stars is really who you are. Okay, if we understand that, your divinity, I always go back into Matthew 5 and 6 where Jesus said you are the light of the world. And if you're really the light of the world, what does that mean? You're all the energy and everything that you need already in place, period. And then it says the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And then it says worry not, again and again and again over. So the key to it seems to be loving kindness to all beings. So what does that mean? That means everybody's perfect. In my eyes, in your eyes. And we seem to be, now the irony is we're celebrating struggle for as a weekend. It's a national holiday. Okay, now I'm using it as a metaphor, really, and please don't get upset and say, Bob, I'm saying. But it's an idea to consider that we have elevated worry and doubt and struggle to a national holiday level. Where the kingdom of, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. And anything that occurs outside of love is a problem. So where does that come from? So I've got this all prepared. You see that? 3 pages. And I will look at it. And the idea is, what voice are we listening to? Because there are voices. Anybody agree we have voices in our head? And they really get really strong at times. So the idea of love, and this is an interesting idea, and this comes not just through Christianity and Jesus, but through all the major religions of the world, that there's a peace that occurs in stillness, in quiet. So we're talking about a voice that's talking all the time. What would happen if the voice didn't talk? What would happen, what would life be like if we could figure out how to slow the mind down and have it go into what we call neutral? What is that possibility? And is that a position of love? See, anybody agree it's difficult to describe the things we're talking about? In other words, how do you define love? Okay, how do you define peace? Part of my understanding now is that we really don't understand what peace is like. You know, what would it be like to be without any concerns? Nothing to worry about. How would that state of being be? Okay, well, let me think about that. I wouldn't have to worry about getting up with what I wouldn't have to do any of that stuff. Wouldn't even have to worry about flat tires. And it's a state of being which is totally contrary to what we've been trained to think. So I'm starting to realize how much inertia there is in the world to hold us back in doubt and fear, which is the ego's grip on our beliefs. And as I was working on this today, loving kindness to all beings, from the one beyond the stars, and that's you. Okay? That's the Christ within you, within me, within us. Anybody agree that everybody that walks on the face of the earth is human? Yes? No, I'm not talking about the animals. We're not going to get all complicated on that one. Okay? But that means you have a soul. And that means deep within you is a motivating energy that moves that block of clay we call the body. Because the body is just a vehicle we have created to be in the physical world. And we make up what happens in the physical world from our thoughts. So if loving kindness to all beings from the one beyond the stars creates from darkness, anybody agree we seem to be in darkness in our world today? I don't know about you, but I notice conflict everywhere. We have a hard time getting along together. And the only way that we solve it is to outshout each other. Okay? And then we go to war to prove that we're right. Anybody familiar with the word debate? I think I talked about this last week. But debate is just a conversation that proves I'm right and you're wrong. Okay? And the person that's most efficient at that gets ahead. So we have glorified this power struggle into a conversation of right and wrong. But loving kindness to all beings from the one beyond the stars is the key to going from darkness into light and beholding the key to peace. Now, I don't know about you, but the whole world's talking about world peace. Okay? And all of a sudden I realized that deep within us is the Christ. And if you really stop and think about the Garden of Eden experience, and they talk about the Garden of Eden in many different languages. Okay, it's samadhi, there's all kinds of words. They're all like my mind went blank. But the whole idea is there's this place of nirvana where everything is perfect, and most of the major religions of the world discuss that. Okay, the land of milk and honey. It's that simple. We all talk about that. So if that is there, why is it even in our mysticals? Anybody familiar with the kids' rhymes and the kids, all that stuff? So within us is a understanding of who we really are. Deep, 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 deep subconsciously. And that is loving kindness. Okay? So we know that we are not living that world of milk and honey. We know inside. And anybody agree people are angry? We're going to stop and think about what's happening. And the only thing is people are angry and striking back. And if I don't have what I think I should have, the easiest way to do it is to create anger. Okay, now I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying that seems to be the general cultural environment that's going on right now. And anger occurs when I feel that I'm not getting what I should. So you see, deep, deep within us is this knowing that we are all really absent from the Garden of Eden experience, consciousness. And remember I said we're going to go on a path conversation. This is what I've been thinking this week. Okay? And all of a sudden, Larry comes up with this, and then anybody agree that song is beautiful? So maybe we should put the words to the song up too. But do you understand that we are operating from anger because we know it's not right? Now, we've been trained, and there's people in the world like I used to be. Paul does a great job at it. Others do it. Okay? And we say, okay, we'll set a goal. Well, where does the goal idea come from? We're right back to the conversation in the song that said, my thoughts are God's thoughts. So as I'm thinking from that pattern the way it should be, knowing what should be, and okay, here's where I should be, so I set a goal, and then I use visualization, which is the energy of God within me, to visualize what's possible and bring it into form from the ethers. Now I'm getting really deep on this conversation. So you see how this whole thing is set up. So the intention is not, in my world, it's not fight back. There's no sense in fighting back. And if there's a code that's there, that's for my highest and best, and everything is there to work for my highest and best, how do I let go and let it occur? So it's right back to loving kindness to all beings, from the one beyond the stars, who is you and me, okay? And letting it go and letting that manifest in our lives. Okay, now, if you go back through history and look at the really breakthroughs, if you like the invention of the sewing machine, the invention of the reaper in the fields, the different inventions have occurred through somebody having an idea, having a dream, having an idea. What's his name? George Washington Carver had an idea for plants and things, and they were all dreams, and somebody had an idea and fostered that idea and stayed with the idea until it was completed. Where did the idea come from? So all of us have that position within us that we know where we should be. And if we're not expressing that, where's the anger come from? We're not being who we know we should be at a deep, deep, deep soul level. Okay? So the conversation is, how do I start the message, learning how to use the language of my soul to get back into that environment? And the key is loving kindness to all beings, which means the president you don't like, which means the next door neighbor you don't like, which means the ex-spouse, wherever they might be, whatever it is. We all have issues, agree? We do. It's interesting to me, and this just popped in my mind, Alcoholics Anonymous has done very, very well with overcoming the disease of alcoholism. And one of the keys there is to go back and write down everybody that I've offended or that's offended me, and then either emotionally or actually physically go make amends. And that's one of the keys to cleaning up their life from the disease of alcohol. So, loving kindness to all beings. And how do I be loving kindness to all beings? I hold them good thoughts. And it takes work. Agree? Because it's learning to shut down the mind when it wants to tell me. I call them stories. Anybody familiar with stories? This is the way, oh my God, what if? And then all of a sudden I start, what if? So that whole conversation is based around a conversation that I know inside myself who I really am, and it's learning to express that. Okay, for me, it's been overcoming my background and and some of the things I was told as a child. So who are you? This is a very interesting thing, and I'm going to go into the course of love in my conversation. Anybody really believe that there are new things coming? In other words, there's a sense, and it's happening in a lot of places. There's a lot of new channeled work coming through. There's a lot of new authors and new people explaining things. There's people out working on different levels, okay? Different levels. And there's all this message going in that you are a child of God. You are a creative being. Okay, the irony is what you don't want is what you're creating. Because there's nothing outside of me. Everything I experience is from within out. Okay? And, of course, love, wherever my glasses are. Here they come. And I must tell you that I'm getting a lot of inspiration from this. But there's also new stuff coming through all the time. Matter of fact, I just ordered a new book. Maybe we'll share that with you next week. Okay, and here, this is from A Course of Love. And this is talking about the fulfilled life, how to have a full life. And it says, do not be afraid, my brothers and sisters in Christ. Realize that there is no cause for fear. See, if I really believe that I'm divinity, there's nothing to fear. Because I've got it. Everything's okay. Then I go on and realize that there's no cause. You cannot fly too closely to the sun, which is a Icarus and the Greek mythology of the guy that tried to fly, and he got too close to the sun and the wax in the wings melted. So you don't have to worry about that, okay? Then it goes on and says, you cannot be deceived any longer by tales of woe or fallen heroes. Everybody's got a reason not to do things, okay? Oh my God, if you do that, this might happen to you. Well, you know what happens if you go out with that type of person? There are all these stories occurring. Then you go on. Your story is one of glory. So your story is not one of woe, or not one of problems, not one of flat tires. I'm going to get really brave, not one of children graduating to higher levels of being and then coming back. Okay? Your greatness can no longer be denied. Who are you? Who am I? And every holy scripture that I'm aware of talks about your divinity. Okay? So it's kind of like, oh my goodness. Then it goes on. Your greatness can no longer be denied unless you deny it. So whose problem is creating your problem? See, it's us that doesn't think we're good enough. It's us that, in other words, my hair's going now, oh my God, what do people think? So rather than just accept who I am as a child of God, I'm a human being without hair. Okay? And I'm just using that as a metaphor to describe how we lock on to these issues and think we're not good enough and then dwell in them. Okay? Then it goes on and says, your greatness can no longer be denied unless you deny it. Do you feel beautiful and prized and worthy? Then so shall you be. See, here's the key. You're a visually human being. Your thoughts are creative. And as you think, anybody agree we think in pictures? So if I say tree, there's probably everybody has a different picture of tree. Doesn't matter. It's your belief in what a tree is. So if I say God, what kind of picture does that go? When I say child of God, you have a problem with that word. Okay? Oh no, not me. Okay? Then it goes on and says, do you feel beautiful? So shall it be. No fear is greater than the fear of meaninglessness. There is an epidemic of people that want to be heard. I'm not heard. That's why it's important for people to go out and talk. Okay? So, if I believe I'm not being heard, what do I have to create? People not listening to me. So, I am complete and whole right now, today. Okay, can you go back to the song? On the overhead?
Which song?
Just go back.
What?
What if a prayer, my life is a prayer. God is praying, my thoughts are words that God is saying. My life is the sound of angels playing, my life is a prayer that God is praying. Okay? And everything that was heard this morning, all the things that we sang, are all part of that conversation. That we are God, and when we're praying, it's our thoughts. Thought is a prayer. And where does a thought come from? Tell me where a thought comes from. Anybody tell me? See, it just comes, and then it has to be barfed out, or hidden within us. And that thought is a creative issue. And so, what are we thinking? And the idea behind this whole thing is sooner or later, learn how to control what the mind is doing, which we call meditation and prayer. And all it is learning to think only the words or only the thoughts that are love, which is right back to the original conversation, loving kindness. Okay? So here we are, we're a whole group of people, and I'm saying our culture generally, that are angry because we know we're not getting what we should as a child of God. And I use the word child of God, whatever you want to put in there. It could, whatever it is. But there's no question. Jesus said you are spirit, God's spirit. You must be worshipped in spirit and trust. You are light, which means you're spirit. So you are spirit of God, expressing God. And how do you do it? Through your thoughts. And if you have loving kindness, my prayer that God is praying, my thoughts are words that God is saying within me. So I really wouldn't want God to hear some of the things I think. Yes? And for some reason, the ego has taken mind over, and it dwells on the problems rather than the grace that you are. That I am. Okay? And so I woke up with this yesterday. Oh my God. The truth is that I am angry, culture's angry because we're not being who we know we should be. So the question is, how do I learn the new language of God, which is learning the new love of God?
What is the Bible verse? Blessed is he whose mind is stayed on him. Something like that. Like where's your mind?
Yeah.
You know,
And
are
Paul
you
says,
thinking about all this stuff, or is your mind thinking about?
Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Because, and the word love is where we are. I love to stir things up. You need to know that. I stir myself up because I'm realizing where are we going? And the ego wants to make it complicated. You know, you want a formula. If you put your left foot down and just cross it with this, and hold this hand up and hold this one over this way, you're going to be enlightened. Okay, there's all these issues, and there's always the guru of the day that says, I'll do this. Okay? And I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying the only answer for each one of us is each one of us individually what you are and what your expression is to be. MJ just had a huge wedding, right?
Yes.
And that's an expression of who you are, right?
Ask me again later after calm down. You know, yes.
Why did you do all the work you did?
Because I wanted to be a special day for someone I cared about.
To hear loving kindness. Okay, now thank you. I didn't even pick you out.
That's okay.
The idea behind it is, why do we do what we do? And it's right back. I would like to go back to the chant again, but that's okay. Can you do that? I didn't mean to stir you up, by the way.
I think I'm going the wrong way.
Other way.
Keep going.
Directional challenge.
Here it is. Jesus said the answer is love. Okay? Love thy neighbor as thyself. And he said that's the one commandment. Love, commandments are love thy neighbor as thyself, love the Lord thy God. Okay? Which is what he said, that's what it is. So loving kindness to all beings. Okay, I'm going to say it again. All beings. Even the jerks in our life. Okay, so there must be a reason that things come into my life, and there are lessons that I'm to learn. So it's learning and letting go and realizing I am not broken. You are not broken. You're a child of God, created in the image and after the likeness of divinity, with the ability to overcome anything. And the answer is, don't worry, don't stop worrying, and go into love. There's a lot more I can talk about, but I'm reaching it in. And because it's so simple, and when I saw that come up, do you see the pattern? Loving kindness to all beings. Now, those that get involved in the Buddhist chants, there's more to that. Okay? But from the one beyond the stars, that's us. Because you're part of the stars, you see. You're part of the universe. From the darkness into the light. So if you want to change your life, loving kindness to all beings. Okay? From the darkness into the light, we behold the key to peace. So the key to peace is loving kindness to all beings. And how do we transmit that to the world? The only way we can is start doing it ourselves. Questions? I'm going to open it up for questions. See how quiet it is? Did you notice how quiet it was when Larry finished and we were singing this? There was a real dense, a vibrant sound to this terminology, because your heart knew that this is correct. So everybody take a breath. Now, if this is uncomfortable, that's correct. Thank you. I love you. I'm finished. I'm sure you want to clap.